자, 그러면 본격적으로 네 번째 세션을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 네 번째 세션의 주제는 홍익인간입니다. 홍익인간 뜻을 아마 기억하고 계신 분들도 계실 건데요. 모든 사람이 어우러져 행복하게 한다라는 뜻입니다. 어우러진다는 이 말에 블록체인에 녹아있는 협력, 협동, 함께하는 정신이 담겨 있고요. 그러한 정신은 크립토 아트 씬에서 고스란히 구현되고 있습니다. 크립토 아트는 다양한 참여자들의 협력을 통해서 완성되는 예술입니다. 내가 디지털 아트를 창작해서 블록체인 플랫폼에 올린다라는 걸로 완성되지 않고요. 컬렉터를 비롯해서 상호작용하는 아티스트와 큐레이터와 다양한 사람들의 참여와 협력이 이 예술을 만들어갑니다. 또 블록체인 기술은 개개인이 주권을 가질 수 있게 해줍니다. 이 데이터는 내 것이다, 나의 소유권이 담겨있는 작품이다라는 것을 블록체인은 기록해 줍니다. 이렇게 개인들 간에 형성된 자립적이고 협력적인 관계는요, 놀랍게도 예술과 문화의 경계를 새롭게 확장하고 미래의 예술을 만들어가는 토대가 되고 있습니다. 이것이 바로 크립토 아트의 핵심 가치이고요. 다시 한번 떠올려 봤을 때 홍익인간, 모든 사람들이 어우러져서 행복하게 한다, 이러한 정신을 구현하는 크립토 아트 이야기를 마지막 세션에서 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 자, 이제 네 번째 세션을 본격적으로 시작할 텐데요. 연사분을 초대해 드리고자 합니다. 마지막 세션의 토론이 뜨거운 마트 토론이 마련되어 있는데요. 뮤지엄 오브 크립토 아트라는 곳이 있습니다. 크립토 아트 뮤지엄을 이끌고 있는 콜본 멜이 좌장으로 함께해 줄 거고요. 그리고 NFT 아시아의 클라라 페, 또 목다의 세라나 타바치는 온라인으로 참여하게 됩니다. 온라인과 오프라인이 상호작용하는 특별한 세션이 마련되어 있습니다. 토론의 주제는 크립토 아트의 본질을 현실 세계에서 보존하기입니다. 모두 큰 박수로 맞이해 주시길 부탁드리도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you so much. Serena, can you hear us?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. Hi.
Amazing, we can hear you. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. We're here talking today about on-chain IRL curation. So they will do it better than me. I'm going to let our speakers introduce themselves. Serena, let's start with you.
Thank you, thanks, and welcome to this wonderful conversation. I'm very happy to be talking to everyone about, introducing crypto art into physical locations and institutions. So I've been collaborating with a number of galleries and museums since 2019, where I started this organization called MOCDA, Museum of Contemporary Digital Art, back in London with Dominic Perini and Tom van Avermaet, and we continue to create opportunities for artists to exhibit their works into locations worldwide.
Lovely, thank you so much, Clara.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. So I'm a curator and arts writer based in Singapore. My practice focuses on emerging technologies, digital visual culture. I work independently and have worked with a number of exhibition spaces, museums, and art fairs. But I'm also the founder of NFT Asia, which is a Web3 artist collective.
Wonderful, thank you so much for that. Serena, we're gonna jump back to you and, just please, I know you've done so much over these years, but would really love if you could just give some highlights to the audience of the work that you've done, the groups that you've worked with, so that they could begin to get a feel, yeah.
Absolutely, yes, thank you so much. So it's been quite a ride, I have to say, and my background starts more with, I would say, traditional organization. So I spent about 4 years at the Tate in London, between Tate Modern, where I spent most of my time collaborating with the exhibition department, and Tate Britain. But apart from that, I always had a keen interest in the development of new technologies such as blockchain And back then, we also participated in the creation in what it was NFT London, when just a bunch of people met in a pub talking about NFTs, when these words were still very unknown by the majority of people. So the interest came from the ability for artists to be able to create a dialogue directly with their audience, and also to facilitate the royalty system, which we all know how much is dear to artists. In my experience, I found a very open approach from those institutions I've collaborated with, and galleries as well. So I've managed to move back to Italy as well, a couple of years back, and create the same kind of setup I developed in London, but in a country which is not as forward-thinking, I would say, and where institutions are way more traditional and less cutting edge. That said, I still was able to build exhibitions in places such as Palazzo Strozzi in Florence, and I'll go to show you some images about exhibitions we did, and Palazzo Cipolla in Rome most recently. Also galleries that opened about a year ago, that the setup they wanted to create was specifically to welcome digital art into their space. And that was something that I would say 4 or 5 years ago wasn't really in their plan. So I must admit, crypto art and everything that's been done by communities globally really shake the mind of those who are leading those spaces. Something that was also interesting to watch and somehow witness and be part of was the fact that now places such as museums and institutions, foundations have technical teams that are able to manage those files and are able also to support artists in the installation on site. Again, something that wasn't really, aside from art handling, in the business plan of those organizations. I'm very happy to see how the progress has been made in such a short time. So I can go ahead and show you some images that I don't know if Clara wants to introduce something that she's done in Asia, and then I can jump back to what we worked on.
Sure, yeah. So for me, I really started producing or curating more exhibitions around art engaged with the blockchain in 2021, when there was sort of increasing support to see IRL exhibitions with art engaged in this area. So in 2021, I curated a show called Right Click and Save with Coin Hako at the time. It was an interesting moment because we actually staged it inside Le Freeport, which is a high security storage facility. And generally, these are places that are not open to the public, but closed door, a lot of high deal transactions take place. And there was an opportunity to actually use that venue for a public NFT sort of exhibition. So we did that, bringing in a lot of interesting artists in the space, including works like the Andy Warhol NFT that was auctioned through Christie's to talk about things like digital conservation, what is authenticity, to works that maybe some of you are more familiar with, like Def Beef's synth poems, really engaging with then what are the possibilities in this space. Following that, I've done a couple more exhibitions in Singapore. Most of the work I do is also concerned with bridging, much like Serena, I think, really looking at the intersections of, thread art or this Web3 sort of space, and thinking about how with IRL exhibitions, we really have the opportunity to bring people together. So earlier this year, I had an exhibition called Proof of Concept, again, supported by a company working with CoinHako. Really there, we were thinking about building on top of the conversation. We started with Right Click and Save to then look towards works that happen supported by the sort of Web3 space, artists actually gaining more support for their independent practice, going further into media art and presenting that for an in-person audience. And then right after that, I worked with Art Dubai. So Art Dubai is a premier art fair that's been running in UAE for the past 16 years. So I curated the second edition of the digital section. Again, very much focused on bridging, bringing TRED audiences, Web3 audiences together. And very recently just opened Notes from the Ether, an exhibition I was the guest curator for at the Art Science Museum in Singapore. I think this is one of the first instances in Southeast Asia and actually in the wider Asian region where a museum is engaging actively with blockchain-based artworks and new technologies. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I really want to dive deeper into this idea of what it means to bridge, because blockchain itself is incredibly complicated, right? It's a new tool for so many. Crypto doesn't have kind of maybe the most positive connotations. NFT as well got a lot of bad associations with it. So I want to know really from both of you how you begin to package this in kind of a canon that fits in the traditional art world and begin to explain it. What are the terms you use? I don't know if anybody wants to take that first.
Well, maybe I can start by saying that one of the very first projects I worked on, we took a lot of education into account. That means making those who are not familiar with those vocabulary, with those words from the Web3 vocabulary, to become familiar with it and to start to know without feeling awkward about it, you know, what those terms mean, what a smart contract is, what it does, without feeling, you know, left behind or scared about these kind of technologies. And I think education is key. And we are introducing works into institutions. Part of our job, I think, is about educating, but also communicating with a language that is accessible to all. So something that I was always, you know, passionate about is to put things in words that are understandable for everyone without feeling that you don't belong to this community. This community actually, you know, started off from a bunch of people that really believed in revolutionizing the art world in a way that was supporting artists and creating a community that was fostering those kind of values. It became way more exclusive with time, but the purpose of inclusion, it stays there. So I think it's very important to focus on education and to really get those words endorsed by institutions that are somehow at the forefront of contemporary art these days.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think in bridging, I mean, in sort of exhibition making, I try to focus more on what the individual artwork is about. So, you know, when we look at a work, let's say with Def Beef synth poems, you know, as an artist, his practice is a lot about on-chain permanence and really trying to address what permanent is. When you work with technology, oftentimes as a media artist, what you face is that files become obsolete very quickly. Softwares that you've used are no longer relevant. You know, a couple decades ago, we used floppy disks. That's hardly usable today. So as an artist who's engaged with this idea of permanence, what can he do? Def Beef chose to address that by using, you know, C as a more basic foundational computing language, which he speculates will be relevant for a longer time and usable for a longer time as a way of preserving his work. Or, you know, artists are engaged in talking about how do you actually like pin your work, you know, things like Club NFT as well, really address these ideas. So when I work with artists like Def Beef, I'm thinking, okay, this is what he cares about. This is what the artwork says. So I've looked towards, like CRTs, equipment that speak to these ideas that can prompt these connotations with an audience. He's also thinking about how, you don't need a lot of heavy tech to create something interesting, and hence returning to a more simplified, more old school kind of vibe with the display equipment to actually get at that idea. Or in presentations of like QQL, we've chosen to present it as an interactive station. I think when you're bringing works into this space, it's important as curators not to assume that the audience has any context. And so this is their first interaction with the project. How can you actually present, what it means for the community, what it has achieved that is so interesting in a new space? I think with QQL, for example, it's that community aspect. You get to play and experiment as much as you like, but when you really create something that you want to share, you put that on Twitter, on your Discord communities. And so we designed interactive stations that also mimic that dynamic so a real audience can feel the same. So I think when we're just paying attention to what the work is about, it allows the curation to, speak of that work, and it helps to bringing new audiences.
Thank you. I want to move on to perhaps, let's call it the willingness of the institution to continue to evolve into digital environments and digital spheres. I think you both represent largely different geographies. Perhaps Europe may be perceived to be more traditional. So Serena, I'd like to maybe delve into that. If you think there is a broad willingness of the institution to evolve, to attract new audience, to move more digital?
Absolutely, yes. I'll start by sharing my screen. So give me 1 second and let me know if you see my screen. Do you see anything? Let's see. But I really much like this question, and I align with what Clara said, that it's very important to reproduce those mechanisms that are used within the crypto art community, but in different places, and to get the general audience to try what it means to belong to a community that most of the times interacts from different areas of the world, often very remote, but still they're very unite. So I don't know if if you can see my screen. I don't see it. So, okay, perfect. Here we are. So I just want to go through some of the projects I worked on and share some of my experience about bringing those works that were probably somehow housed in museums collection and impossible really to carry out in different locations, such as this one, the case, for example, that was also reproduced as a digital unique replica. This is a Modigliani as well that was brought to London. And this exhibition that was put together by Unit London a couple of years back was a way to create impossible exhibitions in digital format where you could create a dialogue between masterpieces that would never leave the museums because they're too fragile, and of course they're very important pieces of art history, so they cannot really travel. So creating them in digital format, unique, somehow certified by museums directors, makes them new original works in digital format. And I think that was the very first time that such show could be put together, where you have a Modigliani, a Raffaello, and a Caravaggio in the same room, creating a dialogue. So that worked really, really well. And I think the audience perception around something digital, but way more accessible, unless you jump on a plane and see museums that cannot really ever see those works in dialogue in the same room, made the public realize the power tools we are currently using to create digital art exhibitions. Something else we presented in New York has to do with sculptures. So the reason why I brought those pictures to your attention is because these two artists that we see here have included monitors into metal sculptures that were designed as a unique artwork piece. So digital in this case is part of the same material that contains the monitor. This was way more accepted, I would say, by the general audience, and they felt more inclined also to collect such work, as they can see it very easily. You know, they can plug it. We can see the cable as well in this picture. You can plug it in and somehow having a work that is digital, but at the same time is a sculpture. So it's interesting to see what the impact is with, you know, audience that is used to collect physical works, but not digital. This is a complete different case where Giuseppe Lo Schiavo, an artist from Italy that is also been working extensively abroad and with brands, has created a unique work for this space in New York, Times Square, where this elephant, you know, the famous elephant in the room that nobody sees, is somehow reproducing the fact that we are polluting very much, and at some point this work, which is a video-based work, the ceiling will collapse, leaving the Cappella degli Strovegni, a very well-known affresco in Italy, in Padova, is filled with plastic bottles. And having this work also exhibited in a public place created a complete different effect from the previous works I showed you. So also the location is very, very important. And who you're talking to here is on a street, on a square, where anyone can stop by and look through this work. Maybe they don't need to know that this is crypto art, right? In other cases, you know, they need to know that works came from museums collection. So it's important also to reference to the place where we are exhibiting and take into account who's going to watch that work. Now, a project that is very dear to me, that is a work by, it's Machine Hallucination by Rafik Nadol, one of the series that he created. This is a site-specific work that was installed inside the courtyard of Palazzo Strozzi, which is one of the fewest Renaissance palazzo in Italy that is still in perfect condition. And the interesting fact about this work is that people really took it as a selfie spot where they could really take that moment into their world, social media, and tell their friends. So it was way more perceived as an experience, even though this is, again, crypto art, and was somehow also, you know, put in context with people who had disabilities and performed right in front of it. Somehow it was very inspiring to them. And that also created a very special moment for people to be part of crypto art without knowing, perhaps, but did they need to know? So that's something that is very interesting to me, you know, the fact that you can put these works in a space that is very difficult, since it's a listed building. Like in this case, we're in the underground space in the basement, and we've installed Anima's work for the first time in this sequence. Anima is a collective, I would say, a studio that creates digital work and also live performances, very well attended, where people have learned the stories of those robots, avatars, and hybrids that have developed from synthetic creations into something that is more living and wants to escape. So again, very interesting to watch how this story was told within museums' walls and then taken into back into the real world with tons of people pulling up their phone and documenting the story of their music and those creations. Jumping here now to the recent exhibition that was in Rome that closed a few weeks ago. In this case, we decided to create the whole concept of the exhibition around the dialogue between physical works and digital works. So we have Krista Kim here and Victor Vasarely. And we also created a reflecting floor to create this dialogue and to make these two worlds coming together so that you could see these into VR and fly over Krista's world, a new version of the Bronx of the future, but also find references into Vasarely's work and the study around the colors. So again, a very interesting case. Jumping towards the last few slides, and then we can go back to the conversation. Interactive works. This is a swing where by swinging, you would activate a generative artwork by Fabio Giampietro, where you could enter inside, literally, a work of art that would be activated by you by swinging. And that was, again, a great attraction, not only for children, but for everyone that didn't know much about how digital art was working, but creating installations that are interactive is really captivating, especially inside museums' walls. Last but not least, this is a digital art gallery that recently opened in Florence, and I hope you all get to visit very soon. So I'll be curating a program of exhibitions here in this space for the upcoming year. So from September onward, where we will host Michael Zancan on the 28th of September. And this space is a bunker from the Second World War where people used to shelter during the bombing during the Second World War in Florence. It still has, as you can see at the very end, a staircase that goes all the way up to the exit. And this was now transformed into a digital art gallery to get that sense of immersion where there's no natural lighting in there, but also to really get close to the nature of digital art. And yeah, these are some of the highlights I wanted to share with you to give you a sense of what it means to work in physical locations, whether they are outdoor, inside galleries, or within museums, and what's the audience response to it. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, yes, it does seem that there is a willingness. Same question.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I wear slightly different hats from Serena in the sense that I have a more sort of traditional curatorial practice, and then I have a practice where I'm exploring digital collectivism with artist collectives. So I think from the more curatorial side of things, I've also worked with both commercial and sort of more cultural institution museums. So from the commercial angle, I think we can all agree there's been a lot of curiosity, a lot of openness to really explore the market viability of new media art. But even then, I think it's important to point out that, you know, we're not just starting from anew. We're really building on top of like decades of new media artists putting themselves out there, establishing, you know, their practices, building up increasingly familiarities with artists working with different kinds of technologies. But the sort of market openness has made it more possible, I think, for institutions on the art world side as well to actually exhibit, to talk about and explore, but whether it's collecting or exhibiting new media works. With Art Science Museum, for example, in our recent collaboration, I was really brought in because the museum director saw some of my previous shows, which were done for commercial entities, as sort of independent exhibitions, felt that they were of museum quality, and then brought me in to then expand on these shows. So it really also goes to show how much I think both sides of that coin are speaking to each other. I think with the sort of time that's passed as well since the initial boom in like 2021, there's also now, I think, more understanding and familiarity from the institutional side that actually a lot of the times we're just talking about new media artworks, new media practices, as much as, you know, there is a subset of works that are deeply engaged with the fact that they are on the blockchain, they're crypto art. Most artists are also creating works that purely use NFTs as a distribution sort of channel authentication tool, and are actually looking at things like 3D, like digital photography, you know, or AI itself, so on and so forth. And so I think there's also more sort of openness towards this field as a whole, which is great. And I think if you look at an institution like HyeIn Basel, I mean, they recently just launched a DAO, right, called Friends of HyeIn that opens up sort of more engagement, collaboration in the public to work with the museum. But the museum's director, Sabine, she also has this really great saying that she's engaged with new media because it's the artwork of our time and it reflects the issues that we're living with. And so I think increasingly more and more institutions will also come to recognize that, develop the understanding and the appetite for that. And blockchain as an area of technology will be a part of that conversation as well.
Thank you so much. There's only a couple minutes left, which means we have to end with a very spicy question. And Serena, to you, I pose, do you believe that the metaverse poses perhaps an existential threat to IRL exhibitions, these legacy institutions, and do you think that they will be able to kind of keep pace with the speed at which digital culture is evolving?
Here we go. To be honest, thank you for the question. I don't think it will represent any threat for institutions. IRL exhibitions will never disappear, in my opinion, and I think they have a need for continuing. Sharing something with others is what makes us human, really. So that kind of perception can be, you can mimic that kind of feeling in the metaverse environment. However, I think we're still far to create the same kind of aura around a work of art that you can experience IRL. That said, works that are created online or exist, whether it's on the blockchain or on a screen, that's that natural way of being created. So as such, they should be experienced, whether it's on a screen or a mobile phone. So I think there's a lot to work on, but definitely the experience IRL cannot be replicated exactly the same right now into the metaverse. I think it's simply a different kind of experience, and both of them can enhance one another.
Thank you so much, Clara. The rest of your time is yours.
No, I think there are really fundamentally different modes of experience, and I think even just digital curation and IRL curation are actually such different ways of thinking. Like in curation, you're really also thinking about experience design, right? You're imagining how someone's going to walk through the door, what's the possible flow in that space that they'll go through, and if so, how do you place the work such that it forms a narrative? What kind of sizes are you looking at in relation to like a human body size? Those are very different kinds of questions when you're curating digitally. You're imagine that someone can be in any context. They could be on different formats of a screen, but that experience should still hold, right? And there's also so many different kinds of environments. There's like on cyber, which mimics more of a white cube model, a more traditional gallery outlook. There's really interesting experiments like Epoch Gallery that are doing really great immersive 3D environments that are exhibition specific. And in those contexts, you're really building an entire digital space rather than just thinking about how the works are being placed. I also just want to very quickly mention in Thailand Biennale last year, they actually worked with 3D designers to engage them to design an entirely new virtual experience that can be run smoothly on the browser so it's more accessible, to then place specific digital works in that context, but that bridges with the IRL Biennale experience. So I think they're really, they can be paired to work together, but fundamentally the considerations are wholly different as they should be.
I can't thank you both enough for your time, your expertise. We're very grateful and incredibly lucky to have you both in this space.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Serena, and thank you, Colborn, for
Thank
moderating.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
everyone.
sharing this valuable insight on IRL Crypto Art Exhibition. 그 다음은 뜨거운 패널 토론이 준비되어 있습니다. 굉장히 열정적인 분들이고요. 한 반나절 넘게 토론하실 수 있는 분들이긴 해요. 소개해드리고자 합니다. 크립토 아트 씬의 커뮤니티 허브 역할을 해주는 또 크립토 아트 서울의 공식 파트너사인 NFC와 수업 관계자 분들을 모시고 우리가 크립토 아트와 그 허브의 창조, Crypto Art and the Creation of its Hub라는 주제로 토론을 한번 함께 참여하고 들어보고 그들의 논점에 공감하는 그런 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 모두 큰 박수로 다시 한번 맞이해 주시길 부탁드리겠습니다.
All right, so hello. Thank you everybody for being here. It's a pleasure. It is personally a pleasure for me after almost 1 year and a half in the space, having two people that I have considered for most of my crypto life legends. And so to be able to interview crypto legends and to actually, you know, this is supposed to be a moderation talk, but to me it's more of a research right now, you know? So I'm gonna ask questions really that I want to know and I really want to learn. So, first of all, who we have here? Can you please give a very brief introduction, just like name, surname, and like maybe your crypto passions? Like, why are you in this space?
Okay, I'm Jeon Karp, and I am in the space just to live an historical moment and be able, when I will be a granddad, to say to my, grandsons and granddaughter, I was there.
Me. Okay. Can I speak in Korean? Vandalo, if it's okay with you? Yes. Yeah. 안녕하세요. 저는 그리다라는 이름으로 활동을 하고 있고요. 프랑스에서 살고 있지만 이렇게 한국 분들과 같이 또 저 좀 긴장해서 네, 프랑스 친구들과 같이 여러 가지 전시를 꾸며가고 있습니다. 어쩌다 보니 유럽 최초 디지털 아트 갤러리에서 큐레이션 일을 2년 반째 하고 있고요. 또 어쩌다 보니 이렇게 NFC 파운더 그리고 NFT 팩토리 파운더를 만나서 여러 컨퍼런스에서 큐레이션을 진행을 하고 있습니다. 이렇게 이 자리에 초대를 해주신 우리 카스 팀 분들께 너무나 감사드린다는 말씀 드리고 싶습니다. 파리에 오시면 꼭 이암 갤러리 그리고 NFT 팩토리 꼭 찾아주시고 커피 한잔하고 크루아상 같이 먹고 그렇게 또 이야기 많이 하면 좋을 것 같아요. 감사합니다.
Wonderful.
You understood everything, right?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah? Okay.
So we're here today to talk about the creation of hubs. So when we have an historical situation like what we're having right now, where, thank you very much, we're really, and thanks to our technology, and we can all agree that digital revolutions are essentially creating new forms of culture. So what is happening right now is that thanks to a digital revolution, which is the blockchain, we're getting the opportunity to see and witness and participate in the formation of a new culture. New cultures, might they be digital or physical, need hubs, need places where this culture can have people participate, thrive, share information, and it really feels like becoming a designer almost of culture, I would say. Is that something that resonates, being a designer of culture?
Definitely. I think, just to talk a bit about how I started to be in this space, I was an entrepreneur, and I created a company in 2011 called hackathon.com. So it was basically event organizer, but in the tech world. And it was a big company, like 100 people I was managing, and not so big, but middle size. And we were always talking about technology, organizing event about AI already, event about the blockchain, event about virtual reality or augmented reality. It was about always, finding use cases of these technologies. And this is how I knew blockchain, but I was not passionate about that. It was just one potential technology, and that's fine. And it's at the very, very beginning of the lockdown that I start to chat. I was organizing one more event about crypto. It was a conference, a virtual one because it was the COVID. And I had some people to help me, some traders, crypto traders, basically. And so every week when we work, I have small talk and say, hey, what are you buying? I was not really buying, but it was more for conversation, you know. And they say, yeah, I buy Ethereum, I buy BNB, DHV, I don't know, I have no idea. But, you know, every time they tell me something, and at the moment, you know, they tell me, oh, I'm buying a virtual land in the Sandbox. It's a new metaverse that basically you can buy a virtual land and you can own it and you can have a lot of things related to that. And so, you know, for me, it was really weird. I say, wow, and I like weird stuff. And so by curiosity, I said, okay, I want to be part of it. And I really remember, you know, they had me in the WhatsApp group. And, you know, I was on the map and I see this yellow point and I buy this stuff, you know. And I was, you know, I was buying 1 land, 2 lands, 3 lands, 4 lands. And you know what is fun? I was in the group with all these people who told me to buy a land. And you know, every time I say, I buy it, and the other one say, oh, you are good. None of us was successful to buy a land. And every time I was buying it, they say, oh, congrats, but it was not working for us. And then I say, oh, I don't know really these people. They scam me, actually, you know? And say, I just buy some yellow stuff on the map, and I have no idea what I did. And you know, it's just that 3 months later, they say, oh, you know the land you acquired for $100? No, people are selling this for $700, or I don't remember. And then I had to understand. And I start to dig. And when I dig, you know, it's not the metaverse that I discovered, but the artist. And when you dig, you know, this is the thing at the moment that everybody understands when you fall into the rabbit hole, where you understand that you have people who are basically writing, you know, history. Who are the future, I would say, the future Basquiat, the future, Picasso, or even the future Da Vinci. The one who are playing to reinvent, who are asking questions about what is art, what is the value, what is scarcity, what does it mean to, what is ownership. And for me, you know, this is thanks to art that I start to understand blockchain really and what does it mean. And so at this moment, you know, I started as a collector. You know, just say, oh, I can buy, you know, a Basquiat for $500, so I do it. And I started to do that, and it was in 2020. It was just before it became interesting. And so in early 2021, a lot of friends of mine who considered me as a crazy guy because I was buying this stuff started to be interested, say, hey, well, it's booming, what's going on? And so I had like 10 calls a day explaining what is an NFT. And so it started like this, because at the moment, in March, in 2020, I say, okay, there is this new app. It's called Clubhouse. Every morning at 9 a.m., I will be here to answer your questions. And so I started to do it every day. And so this is how I started, you know, this podcast where we produce 500 episodes now. That is called NFT Morning. That was basically the first medium, the first area where French people, artists, collectors, investors were able to discover, you know, what are NFTs.
So a first meeting point, a first concept of a hub for you was not a physical place, was an occurrence, a recurring occurrence, something where people could meet and start sharing these checkpoints, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And Grida, for you, so when of course, a lot of us know you for the HyeIn gallery in Paris. We also know you for the NFT Factory Paris, and also your participation in the Non-Fungible Conference. For you, how did you get into this situation where you started to see that there were all these people, all these dynamics, these topics around you, and then all of a sudden you were becoming one of the creators of the contact points of these people? So how was that experience for you?
In my starting, for me, one of the most valuable thing in our scene is the community and friends. So my starting was, of course, the Clubhouse, and I see so many OG friends here. I feel so happy. And I don't want to thank to COVID, but actually this pandemic situation made everyone really gloomy. And at that time, having this Clubhouse, especially me living abroad, missing my country, it kind of solved my depression, talking with Korean and you know, about art. And at some point, I saw a room named like NFT blah blah, NFT blah 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 blah, NFT Korean name, NFT French name, NFT blah blah English name. So what is NFTs? But so many cool friends, they're just there. So okay, let's get and listen. And that's how I fell in this rabbit hole plus black hole. And I heard many other good stories, and so this is the beginning. And still, they were in Korea, and I was in Paris. What can we do it together? Artists gathering and doing something together. Equal became exhibition. That's how I started this curating, because we really want to share this value together. So it really became an exhibition. And thanks to our YAM Gallery founder, he had a gallery, art furniture gallery at that time in Paris, and he had empty wall, and we had a meeting together. And why don't you put screens on the wall? Let's make a Korean NFT artist exhibition together. That's started. That's how I met Jeon there. So now here I am right now. So for me, the herb is starting from the communication and friendship and art and exhibition. And exhibition is where the art belongs in the space. So that was my beginning.
Now here comes the hard part, taking this experience that you have been doing first digital and then with this experience with HyeIn, and then scaling it up with the non-fungible conference in Lisbon. So a lot of people were talking about conferences. I organized some conferences in Italy. One of the last ones was NFT Rome. It was the first edition, and Crypto Seoul here today is the first edition. An applause for Crypto Seoul for an amazing first edition.
Yeah! Bravo!
And
bravo, bravo!
we were all sharing opinions on the fact that it's hard to launch your first conference. It's really hard to get attention going. And I remember it was Edward Zipco who commented for their first NFT conference that it was not the first edition. It felt almost like the third, because you guys have been building hubs digitally before that then empowered your physical conference when it happened the first time. What were some of the major obstacles that you found when organizing the first one? And what, on the other hand, almost felt completely natural, that almost happened by itself?
Now, in everything you do in your life, the first one is always special, because it's there is a big part of unknown, and there is a big part of, you need to jump, close your eyes, and say, okay, whatever will happen, it will happen. And I think, the most important thing, when you start to organize this kind of thing, is really be able, is, I would say, the will. When I say will, when you go from 0 to 1, you need to be really convinced that whatever happens, it will happen. And I think this is the most important thing, because at the beginning, when nobody knows you, this is the thing, you are contacting sponsors, speakers, and a lot of people, but they say, who are you? I don't know you. I don't know what you do.
Also, like you were in a non-fungible conference in the scene, at least the European one, was one of the first conferences happening, if not the first one, right? On the specific topic.
The first is always a complex measure,
Yeah.
It depends on the way. Yeah, we were the first in a way to do, I would say, maybe a big event in Europe with a strong focus on creators.
To me, it really felt when I participated that it really was one of the first ones that really started to really have the word being passed around all around Europe. I'm from Italy.
I agree.
It, yeah.
If we're talking about starting point, it's true that, I will explain you how I had the idea about the conference. It happened actually in Paris. It was like 3 years ago, and that was at a really big and beautiful event called HyeIn. So, in the world, in the crypto world, you have a lot of crypto events, like the Korean Blockchain Week right now, like, Consensus, or all these big events, organized by the crypto community. And I had my community. It was my podcast. And, it started the first time 3 people, second day 5 people, third day 7 people. And then, we were at a moment where we had like 5,000 people listening the podcast every day. And on the other hand, I was at this event, HyeIn, that was great. But when I was saying to people, hey, I am into NFTs, people watch at me, because there were people from decentralized finance, people from devs working on protocols, and they were watching me like, oh yeah, like, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, technology is interesting, but I'm not sure about this JPEG stuff. And so I realized at this moment that even within the crypto world, you had different families, different, I would say, generations. You had the Bitcoin family that just believe in Bitcoin. You had the, I would say, East developer family that really believe in protocols and in decentralized finance. But now, this, I would say, new generation that were mainly interested by NFTs first, people like me that came into the blockchain thanks to NFTs, they were not really represented in big conferences. And this is why I say, okay, I was there, I spent 2 good days, but where I was, and I say, okay, where I was really like, didn't speak exactly the same language, and say, I want to create an event for people who speak the same language. And so I want to bring this community, that is part of the podcast I'm doing, this community that I see every day on the Twitter space, because it became on all these platforms, like it was like I don't know, like non-origin at this moment, or doing artists and collectors. I want to bring them to a real event, and so this is how we started to do it.
And Grida, your participation in this last edition of Non-Fungible Conference was extremely major. When coming for the second edition, this time I actually heard your name involved in the project more than his, So I was really impressed. I was like, Grida. Ooh. So for the creation of the second conference, what do you think were some of the objectives or the real achievements that the conference was able to obtain, and how did it impact this community that you've been together gathering for the past 2-3 years?
For me, sorry, could you just short down the question?
Yeah. No, the
Sorry,
major achievements and how do you feel it has impacted the development of your community?
Actually, conference exhibition is we can do many new things, because I do the gallery, and gallery is kind of classic screens, and it depends on the exhibitions, but actually the setting up is the same. So it can always also bring some communities and friends, really mild and soft discussion. But the power of conference exhibition is also the opportunity to bring a new technology, new way of display ways. And so it can really ring and shake people that, wow, digital art can be so big. We can really be immersed by the digital art. So we can really find some new way, because it's also related to the metaverse. Sorry, my brain is really panicked because we need to see the videos right now, but it's not working. So, but yeah, they will go. But anyway, so the thing is, yeah, we can really bring digital art, and digital art can really cover our friends and making it feel better. And also, especially this bear market, having these IRL events and fulfilling with the digital art, making a positive mind and actually doing something together in the future. So I think this could be the warm impact. John?
Yeah, and I believe also, I think, this is the point of when you find people like Grida, myself, you, all these people who are in the space. On my side, I was working in the corporate world before. I was more, I've been working with basically all the Fortune 500 companies to organize hackathon for them. And I enjoyed it, But, for me, Web3 was the opportunity to not depend on them. It was really the moment I say, okay, whatever I do in this space, I don't want it to be something corporate. And so it was my starting point. I told you, 1, I want to do something, with these people. 2, I don't, it's fine. But if corporate are joining the event, they need to join it, with my rule, because the event need to be more important than any other thing. And it gives you a space of freedom. And this is really the thing that is important for me, reinventing. We spend time now, everybody is trying to do new things every day. You have people who are artists, are trying right now to create new on-chain stuff that has been never done before. We have people playing with AI has never been done before. And for me, as a small, humble, I would say, event organizer, at my small level, I feel like I have the same responsibility to do stuff, that has never been done before. You have the classical event pattern, you have a main stage, conference, and you have exhibition, and you have sponsors with booths, and that's and you have not stop ending plan, and then you say okay, that's fine, and you have a classical ticketing with Eventbrite. End of the story. How can we play with that? How can we be more token based, community based, more decentralized, more playing with the format where maybe inventing new concepts, and all of us want to create new things that maybe will make babies. For example, Grida has been working for the conference for something that we call blind talks.
Yeah.
And it was a way, to mix a talk, an art exhibition, and I would say an exchange, a community moment in one stuff. And what we've been thinking is that, we're trying to think about it's a live exhibition, basically. And we are happy, then to come here and chatting with the Crypto Art Seoul team and say, they say, blind talk we like this word, we want to reuse it for the event. And it's a back and forth between the concept and all the community. Now we are inventing. And maybe, what will be an event in 10 years from now, it cannot be something like the art exhibition won't be like Art Basel. Yeah. It's impossible, to have something like this. For me, it does not talk to me. I have like 100 booths of galleries doing the stuff. It does not talk to me. So the same way NFTs are taking over in the art world, the exhibition will change. And so, for me, this is the question, and for me, it's a research project, basically. What are the boundaries? What are the way to reinvent the way you are organizing events?
I can vouch to this research because having attended the first and the second edition, but also having had the opportunity to see many other conferences, I really see this objective and this mission in the non-fungible conference. The level up from the first edition to the second edition was incredible, and we're not just talking about the way that you guys set up the venue or raised up the technological solutions. The concept itself of the stage, how you developed it, I was blown away. We're seeing some clips right now here in the back. When I saw the talk by Pac, for example, it was wonderful because I had this opportunity for the first time to have this experience where I was hearing a talk, but it was not just a person on a stage with some clips in the back, but it was fully immersed into the visual, the mind of the artist. And not only that, I would like to mention it. You had a stand for AI artists where they were doing collaborative projects and works together. And that was one of the first times that in an NFT conference I saw artists being invited to, and thanks to also the medium of AI that allows for this quick collaboration, to start producing. And I believe it was one of the bigger successes. At least I remember that it was supposed to be something small, but it ended up growing and growing, and then physical artists started joining. And so this really feels, as you were saying, as a free experience almost. I really felt that because of that booth, because of the way that you're setting up this conference, artists were able on the spot to propose and build on top. And I really think that this is a powerful thing that you're doing with this conference.
Thank you. So Grida, maybe you want to complete with something, but I think if a lot of people who are here also thanks to Grida because she's connecting a lot of people. And so,
It's my own in charge. Yeah, I'm the responsible for everyone. Please go ahead.
No, but I agree with you, with this freedom point, and also the token is also something we need to, because it's always like this. I give an example, but ticketing. When you're doing event ticketing, the easy way is to use a standard ticketing Web2 solution like Eventbrite. But on the other hand, we spend time to explain that NFT has a big potential as a technology to do more loyalty programs for brands.
Yeah, one thing about it, one thing that I really liked is that some of the people who participated in the organization of the first event, or maybe that participated with the ticket, then became the board that was choosing the speakers for the next edition, right?
Yeah. We try again. I won't pretend that it's a fully decentralized organization because it's not true at all. It's very centralized by myself. But we try things. And for example, curators. We organize a way. Because we have some great curators in the space. But they are here every time, everywhere. And we wanted to see new faces also to do the talks curation. And so. Anyone was able to apply to be a curator, and then all the token owner of the ticket were able to vote to select, the 6 curators who would, basically select the speakers for the event. And yeah,
Don't be too humble. That's already something like super cool to implement in a conference as big as NFC. So that's a really big achievement in my opinion.
oh, thank you. No, thank you very much. No, and it's true that, okay, on one hand, it ended up that people vote also for faces they know, so we had the chance to have, a key curator for this kind of thing, like Mikkel, who's here from Vertical Crypto Art, or like, Eleonora Blisi, who are, you see them in many events. On the other hand, we had really artists who are, that you are not used to see, who were part of the curators team, and so I was happy with that,
So major takeaways is that your hub can start absolutely digital. There's this need to have people with opinions that are exploring to meet and start building their community first online. And the ability to bring this community from online to physical, it really is facilitated if you've built your community online first. And then the concept of loyalty through NFT and involving that same community into your conference through the tokenization of the ticket, for example, is something that we should all aspire to do for maybe following editions. I'll definitely try it for my following conferences, and maybe Crypto Art Seoul also, since they tried to do and they launched for the first time the NFT ticket.
Crypto Art Seoul has definitely this spirit, and this is why I'm happy to be there, because the first time we met, we felt like a connection, in the same way of thinking about, first art and creator are major, whatever you have, you have metaverses, you have gaming, you have fashion, you have whatever you want, but this Web3 movement as a cultural movement is the key, and if you're not considering that, for me, you are missing something. And on the other hand, trying to do stuff, and this is why, I'm really happy to be there right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a wonderful story about the meaningful journey. 네. 세 분을 바라보기만 해도 계속 웃음이 나서 저도 행복한 마음으로 이 토론을 지켜봤습니다. 그 다음 순서는요. 혹시 여러분 이곳에 오실 때 셔틀버스를 타고 오셨나요? 저는 아직 소문만 듣고 타진 못했는데 셔틀버스를 타면서 그 안에 예술 전시를 감상할 수 있는 특별한 기획을 크립토 아트 서울이 준비했습니다. 바로 이분과 함께 말이죠. 소개해드리겠습니다. 박승순 뮤지션님을 모시고요. 이 셔틀버스 전시에 관한 특별한 기획 이야기를 들어보도록 하고요. 모더레이터로는 에트나 컴퍼니의 전혜인 디렉터님께서 함께해 주시도록 하겠습니다. 네, 박수로 맞이해 주시죠.
안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. 네, 저는 에트나 컴퍼니 아트 기획팀의 전혜인이라고 합니다. 오늘 이렇게 만나 뵙게 돼서 반갑습니다. 그래서 저희는 이번 세션은 이제 블록뮤직 그 시티라고 아마 혹시 셔틀버스 타고 오신 분들 많이 계신가요? 네, 그러면 셔틀버스에서 MX88A를 이미 만나 보셨을까요? 네, 그래서 저희는 이제 이동의 경험과 장소 그 방문의 여정부터 좀 새로운 경험을 드리고자 이번에 이제 믹스 오디오의 그 박승순 이사님이자 이제 뉴미디어 아티스트 박승순 작가님을 모시고 이번 세션을 좀 진행을 하게 됐습니다. 그래서 크립토 아트 그 서울행 버스에서 블록 뮤직 시티가 어떤 곳인지 다들 설명을 들으셨을 텐데요. 이제 못 보신 분들을 위해서 그리고 해당 작품을 보신 분들이 궁금해하실 이야기들을 좀 오늘 이제 작가님을 모시고 함께 얘기를 나눠보고자 합니다. 네, 작가님 먼저 잠깐 소개 부탁드릴게요.
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 전자음악가이자 미디어 아티스트 그리고 이제 소개해 주신 대로 그 AI 음악기술 스타트업 뉴튠이라는 곳에서 공동 창업 멤버로 합류한 박승순이라고 합니다. 그 이번 이제 그 셔틀버스에서 아트워크 블록뮤직 시티 믹스 오디오 앳 블록뮤직 시티의 아트워크를 제작하였습니다. 네.
네. 그래서 사실 오늘 사실 요 블록뮤직 시티에 대한 소개를 먼저 좀 간단히 여쭤보고 사실 지금 뒤에 화면에서 나오고 있는 이 영상이 저희 셔틀버스에서 만나보셨던 그 영상이거든요. 그래서 먼저 블록뮤직 시티에 대해서 간단히 작가님 소개 부탁드릴게요.
네, 저희 뉴튠이라는 곳에서는 이제 오늘 오전에 그 앱 출시를 했는데 믹스 오디오라는 이제 차세대 인터랙티브 음악 앱을 출시했어요. 거기에서는 이제 여러분들도 잘 아시다시피 챗GPT 기반으로 이제 문장을 입력해서 전송을 하면은 거기에 어울리는 음악을 자동으로 이제 생성해 주는데, 거기 안에 들어가 있는 이 음악의 단위들이 마치 레고 블록 형태로 구성이 되어 있어요. 이거를 조금 더 이제 쉽게 설명을 드리자면은 어댑티브 뮤직이라는 개념인데, 이게 게임 엔진에서 어떤 스테이지에서 스테이지로 넘어갈 때 자연스럽게 음악이 연결되는 구조를 뜻하는데, 그 개념을 바탕으로 저희가 이제 그냥 뭐 스포티파이나 애플 뮤직에서 음악을 통으로 감상하는 게 지금 웹2에서의 일반적인 음악 감상 방식이라면은, 아티스트의 음악 자체를 만들 때부터 레고 블록처럼 되게 세분화한 조각들로 만들어서 출시를 할 경우에는 이게 계속 시간이 지나면 지날수록 사용자들이 그 블록, 뭐 아티스트 A의 블록을 아티스트 B의 블록과 연결해서 듣는다든지, 그런 어떤 이전에는 생각지 못했었던 음악적 경험을 할 수가 있게 됩니다. 그런 어떤 블록화된 미디어들이 보편화된 2030여 년에 어느 도시, 그거를 제가 이제 이 블록 뮤직 시티라고 세계관을 한번 구성을 해본 것이었습니다.
네, 그래서 아무래도 사실 블록이라는 그 키가, 그러니까 블록체인이라는 그 기술을 연상시키기도 하고, 근데 이 블록 형태로 사실 음원을 조각화하시게 된 계기가 있으실 것 같아요. 그러니까 예를 들면 이 음악 지금 생태계 자체에 대한 어떤 문제라던가 이런 부분들에 대한 인식이 있으셨는지 궁금합니다.
네. 이 영상에서도 제가 질문을 하나 던진 게, 왜 우리는 그동안 음악을 듣기만 했을까라는 질문이 가장 핵심적이었던 것 같아요. 예를 들면은 방금 말씀드린 것처럼 아티스트 입장에서도 단순히 그냥 지금은 음악을 출시를 하게 되면은 사실 뭐 애플 뮤직이나 스포티파이에서 정산을 받을 때 한 곡당 거의 1원도 안 되거든요. 근데 만약에 이 음악 자체를 블록화해서 뭐 일반 스트리밍뿐만이 아니라 다양한 뭐 게임이라든지 아니면 뭐 유튜브 영상이라든지 이런 데 조금 더 확장된 형태로 만약에 제공을 할 수 있게 되면은, 창작자 입장에서는 더 다양한 어떤 수익 창출의 기회를 얻을 수도 있을 것이고, 그리고 감상자 입장에서도 그냥 한 곡만 듣고 끝나는 게 아니라, 뭐 예를 들면 나는 오늘 아이유의 음악을 약간 뭐 칠한 바이브로 바꿔서 듣고 싶어라고 한다면 그런 것들이 이제 충분히 가능할 텐데, 왜 우리는 그동안 그냥 음악을 듣기만 했지? 이게 이제 가장 좀 핵심적인 질문이었었던 것 같아요.
네. 그래서 사실 이 블록 뮤직 시티가 믹스 오디오 지금 활동하고 계시는 그 팀의 어쨌든 하나의 꼭지의 프로젝트인데, 그러면 믹스 오디오에서는 어떤 서비스 혹은 어떤 프로젝트를 좀 진행하고 계시고 지향하고 계신지도 좀 궁금해요.
네. 일단은 아까 좀 짧게 설명을 드렸는데, 저희가 이제 챗GPT 기반의 프롬프트형 음악 생성도 지금 이제 기능을 추가를 했고, 뭐 예를 들면은 내가 허밍으로 음을 이렇게 부르는데 거기에 알맞은 배경 음악을 자동으로 블록 형태로 구성을 해주는 방식도 있고, 뭐 그런 식으로 이제 기능들을 계속 업데이트를 해 나가고 있고요. 그리고 작년 같은 경우에는 제가 이제 또 속해 있는 현대자동차 오픈 이노베이션 플랫폼인 제로원이라는 곳에서 사실 이 블록 뮤직 시티를 세계관을 구성하기 훨씬 전에 이 제로원 시티라는 프로젝트를 이제 설계를 했었는데, 그때는 이 아이오닉 5라는 차량 안에서 뭐 그때도 비슷하게 한 2030년에 어느 날 도시에서 자동차가 이동을 할 때 뭐 바깥 풍경이라든지 이런 어떤 데이터들을 자동차 스스로가 생각하는 일종의 미디어 머신이라고 상정을 해놓고, 거기서 수집된 데이터를 바탕으로 이 차량 안에 탑승한 사람이 뭐 오디오를 변화시키기도 하고, 그리고 거기서 재생되는 어떤 영상물도 스타일을 다르게 변화시켜서 좀 더 이제 인터랙티브한 음악과 미디어를 감상할 수 있는 곳이 이제 제로원 시티였다면, 이 블록 뮤직 시티 같은 경우에는 이제 이 셔틀버스를 탑승해 보신 분들께서는 이제 경험을 해보셨겠지만, 이제 실제로 물리적인 버스가 이동을 했을 때 거기 안에서 예를 들면 어떤 이제 세계관으로 내가 마치 어떤 게임이나 영화 속에 진입하는 것 같은 그런 이제 분위기를 좀 형성을 하고 싶었던 게 좀 있었던 것 같아요. 네, 그래서 뭐 자동차라든지 뭐 게임이라든지 그리고 뭐 음악 산업, 뭐 영화 산업 이런 쪽으로도 저희가 최대한 이제 이 블록 형태의 음악들을 확장시키려고 계속 노력을 해보고 있습니다. 네.
그래서 음원이라고 했을 때 이제 어떤 사운드 포션 그 이렇게 요소들일 것 같은데 보니까 이제 인공신경만 그 AI 기술을 접목해서 이 컨텐츠를 생산을 하시기도 하고 음악을 또 뭔가 큐레이션하기도 하고 그러니까 여러 방면으로 이게 쓰인 것 같아요. 그래서 이 AI 부분을 한번 잠깐 좀 여쭤보고 싶어서.
네.
네.
그냥 뭐 쉽게 설명을 드리자면 요새 막 그 뉴진스의 그 하이보이를 막 브루노 마스가 부르는 그런 이제 AI 커버송과 같은 게 이제 AI 음악 기술에서는 뭐 음성 합성, 보컬 합성 쪽이 이제 하나 크게 자리하고 있고 또 하나의 축이 이제 저희가 지금 하고 있는 AI 음악 생성 쪽인데 또 이 AI 음악 생성 같은 경우에는 그 디지털 악보, 그러니까 미디 데이터를 이제 음표를 숫자로 치환을 해서 그걸 학습시킨 AI 모델이 뭐 예를 들면 바흐의 음악을 뭐 AI 버전으로 생성한다든지 그런 이제 연구나 서비스들이 한 축으로 또 있는가 하면 저희 같은 경우는 그런 악보 데이터도 물론 가능하지만 오디오 파일 자체를 분석을 합니다. 그래서 뭐 예를 들면 어떤 그 음원 안에 뭐 어떤 뭐 드럼이라든지 베이스라든지 신디사이저라든지 이런 악기들이 무엇인지를 분석을 하고 그리고 이제 뭐 스포티파이나 애플 뮤직에서도 그 음악 추천 시스템 같은 경우에는 이 음악과 저 음악의 스타일이 얼마만큼 유사한지를 분석을 하는 게 이제 보편화돼 있다면 저희는 이걸 더 세부적으로 들어가서 뭐 예를 들면 A 아티스트의 드럼이 B 아티스트의 뭐 피아노와 유사도가 그 매칭 유사도가 굉장히 높다라고 판단이 들면은 그거를 매칭시켜 준다거나 아니면은 무언가를 제거해 준다거나 그런 기술로 저희가 지금 이제 사용을 하고 있어가지고 네, 계속 고도화될 것 같습니다. 네.
그러면 이제 개개인이 그 뭐 음원을 블록 음원을 선택을 하고 그거에 따라서 본인이 이제 새로운 음원을 만들기도 하고 그 만든 음원을 다른 사람한테 이제 뭐 판매를 한다거나 이런 부분들이 이제 가능해지는 것을 지금 하고 계시는 거죠.
네, 그 저희가 사실은 지금은 잠깐 이 프로젝트를 중단하긴 했는데 이 믹스 오디오라는 프로젝트 자체가 작년에 이제 그 NFT 프로젝트로 시작을 했었어요. 그래서 저도 이제 작년부터 그 이 NFT 다양한 멋진 프로젝트를 보면서 되게 흥미로웠었던 게 이제 뭔가 세계관을 구성한다든지 그리고 직접 그 NFT를 통해서 내가 뭐 예를 들면 음원을 예전에는 소유를 할 수는 없었잖아요. 근데 저희가 저작권이 다 풀린 형태의 블록 뮤직 팩을 발매를 했었는데 그렇게 되면 이제 소유까지 가능한 모델로 저희가 이제 많이 활발하게 배포를 했는데 이게 또 한계점을 저희가 보게 될 수밖에 없었던 게 저희는 음악 사운드 쪽이다 보니까 아무래도 이쪽 씬은 조금 더 그 시각 위주의 아트웍들이 좀 더 활발하게 거래가 되고 그리고 뭐 소비되는 경향이 있었던 것 같아요. 그래서 네, 그런 지점들을 좀 발견할 수 있었습니다.
네.
네.
저 아무래도 이제 NFT가 사실은 시각예술 분야로 좀 많이 이제 포커스가 되고 있는 지점이 있는데 그러면 그 이 믹스 오디오도 그렇고 지금 작가님께서도 앞으로 이 그 블록체인, 이 크립토 아트의 영역 안에서 이제 사운드를 계속 하신다고 했을 때 뭔가 지향하시는 그런 음악 산업에 혹은 음악 생태계가 이렇게 흘러갔으면 좋겠다라고 바라보시는 게 있으시면 좀 공유를 해주시면 좋을 것 같아요.
그 저는 이제 지금부터는 약간 패치를 회사 입장을 빼고 개인 아티스트의 입장을 생각해보면 저는 조금 더 극단적으로 생각을 많이 해보는 것 같아요. 그러니까 뭐 예를 들면 음악 샘플링이라고 했을 때도 지금은 뭔가 아티스트의 조각들에 대해서 얘기를 했지만 전혀 생각지 못했었던 어떤 뭐 그 어느 제3세계에 제작한 무언가의 데이터들이 온라인상에서 모두가 공유되는 어떠한 허브가 존재한다고 했을 때 뭐 쉽게 생각하면은 옛날에 이제 냅스터나 이런 P2P 모델을 저는 이제 너무 많이 그 즐겨 썼기 때문에 그 안에서 컨텐츠를 그 이렇게 찾아다니는 그 뭐랄까 경험 자체가 너무 환상적이었던 것 같거든요. 근데 그걸 지금으로 대입을 해보면 그런 엄청난 데이터의 바다에 이게 다 그 미디어들이 조각화되어 있는데 이거를 내가 원하는 어떤 뭐 오디오뿐만이 아니라 시각 요소 그 뭐 이미지라든지 영상물이라든지 이런 것들을 내가 언제든 조합할 수 있는 그런 무언가의 허브가 생긴다면은 그거야말로 진짜 그 웹3에서만 경험할 수 있는 신세계이지 않을까 그런 생각은 하는데 거기엔 또 이제 웹2에서 그 문제가 되는 뭐 예를 들면 카피라이트 문제 같은 것도 아직 뭐 완벽하게 해결되지 않은 문제들도 많고 그리고 그거를 옹호하는 분들도 있고 또 거부하는 분들도 계신 걸 너무나 잘 알고 있기 때문에 이게 뭔가 한 번의 급격한 변화보다는 좀 이렇게 서서히 변하게 되지 않을까 그런 생각을 좀 개인적으로 많이 해보고 있는 것 같아요. 네.
사실 이게 AI가 또 들어오면 창작의 영역에서도 AI를 사용을 해서 콘텐츠를 이제 생산을 할 때 사실 그 아까 저작권 얘기를 하셔가지고 그래서 갑자기 궁금해지는 건데 이 부분 그 음원 요소들도 사실은 AI가 그러니까 큐레이션하는 그 데이터를 어쨌든 활용해가지고 새롭게 생성을 해주는 거잖아요. 그런 부분에 대해서는 뭐 최근에 이슈 같은 건 없었나요? 이 NFT랑 또 접목이 되면 그게 약간 하나의 또 거래될 수 있는 콘텐츠가 되니까.
그러니까 그게 되게 지금 이슈인 것 같아요. 그 AI 보컬 생성 쪽도 지금은 거의 대부분 다 막혀 있거든요. 그게 원 저작자뿐만 아니라 이 저작물을 가지고 있는 그 기업들, 뭐 유통사들, 배급사들 이런 쪽에서 이런 것들을 그 다 이제 금지시켜 놓고 있는 추세로 가는데 또 한편에서는 그런 기업들 뭐 유니버설 뮤직이라든지 구글과 같은 기업이 이 저작권 문제를 슬기롭게 뭔가 이렇게 해결해 나가자라는 액션도 또 보여요. 한편으로. 그렇기 때문에 이거는 시간과 어떤 논의의 문제이지 저는 이제 아티스트의 입장에서 바라보면 이거는 풀릴 수밖에 없는 거 아닌가? 그런 생각을 개인적으로는 좀 많이 하는 것 같습니다. 네.
알겠습니다. 그럼 저희 이제 시간이 거의 다 되고 있어서 마지막 질문을 하나 하려고 해요. 그래서 이제 사실 NFT 쪽으로 지금 이제 서비스도 하시고 사실 관련된 작품으로서 이제 사운드 아트를 담는 이제 뉴미디어 아티스트로도 활동을 하시는데 그럼 마지막으로 이제 작가님이 생각하시는 이 NFT, 그러니까 예를 들면 창작자가 있고 이거를 듣는 청취자가 있고 그리고 이 청취자들을 또 중심으로 한 커뮤니티가 또 있잖아요. 이 생태계가 어떻게 이제 만들어질 수 있게끔 여기서 활동을 하시겠다는 약간 포부이자 그 비전을 좀 한번 공유해 주시면 어떨까 싶습니다.
네. 그 일단 저 개인적으로는 계속 여전히 이 웹3 블록체인 뭐 크립토 이런 부분에 대해서 관심이 계속 그 매일매일 증가하고 있기 때문에 개인적으로는 여태까지 해왔었던 일련의 작업들을 뭔가 블록체인 시스템에 좀 치환시키는 작업을 한번 해보고 싶다. 근데 거기서 이제 발생되는 허들이 아직 그 저도 이런 변화에 대해서 항상 되게 빠르게 대응하는 편인 것 같은데 그럼에도 허들이 많이 있는 것 같아요. 그랬을 때 이 허들이 조금 더 낮춰진 상태로 창작자는 조금 더 자유롭게 자신의 어떤 그 아트웍들을 조각화됐든 아니면 그 덩어리가 됐든 올리고 그리고 감상자들 그러니까 창작자 감상자 자체가 뭔가 분리되어 있는 게 아니라 저는 점점 더 그 경계가 희미해질 것 같다고 생각을 하거든요. 그랬을 때 조금 더 뭔가 앞서 말씀드렸었던 정말 다양한 미디어들의 바다 속에서 누구나 다 들어와서 뭐 자신만의 어떤 크리에이티비티를 마음껏 뽐낼 수 있는 그런 곳으로 좀 활용해 보고 싶다라는 게 개인적인 생각입니다. 네.
그래서 오늘 여러 말씀 나눠주셔서 감사했고요. 사실 오시면서 이제 셔틀버스 안에서 이 작품을 마주하신 분들도 계실 거고 혹은 아직은 보지 못하신 분들도 계실 것 같아요. 그래서 이 크립토 아트 서울로 오는 그 여정 속에서 사실 블록 그 뮤직 시티를 경험하시면서 사실 저희가 새로운 아트의 그런 그 경험을 이동하는 과정 속에서부터 좀 드리고자 했거든요. 그래서 오늘 혹시 택시를 타고 오시거나 그러신 분들은 이제 가실 때 셔틀버스를 좀 이용해 보시는 거를 추천을 드리고 이제 이 믹스오디오의 앞으로의 그 활동들도 좀 많이 기대해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 저희 오늘 세션은 여기서 마치도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다. 우리가 음악을 그냥 수동적으로 듣기만 했지 레고 블록처럼 조립하고 만들어가고 참여할 수 있다는 생각은 하지 못했던 것 같아요. 블록 뮤직 시티가 그런 의미에서 굉장히 재미있는 컨셉이라는 생각이 들었고요. 이번 토론도 AI와 예술가에 관한 주제이고요. 슈퍼치프 갤러리의 에드워드 집코와 그리고 아티스트 존 버거의 대담이 준비되어 있습니다. 네, 웃으면서 올라오고 있는 두 분을 박수로 환영해 주시길 바랍니다.
God, you must nail them down and bleed them by the feet and by the hands. Strike at the two eternal freedoms, the freedom of movement and the freedom of
Can we turn it up
creation.
just a little bit?
The hand is the father of the artist. To master a hand is to handle a master. That is why Helen
Even
of
louder.
Troy, the most beautiful person to ever have lived, was said to have a third hand that caressed her suitors in dreams. Hands are the soil beneath the aesthetic harvest we call modernity. Hands are the pinnacle. Hands are holy. Hands are destiny. That is why, at we sell human hands.
All right, that's it. So, thank you all for being here. My name is Edward Zipco. I'm the director and co-founder of Superchief Gallery and Superchief Gallery NFT. And we're here today with Gordon Berger. What we're talking about today is AI, and we're talking about the point in time we are in AI artwork. This exhibition behind me that we're gonna be slowly scanning through is called Artist XAI//00004. And this series is about AI artwork. It's for AI artists. It's for artists as they experiment with AI, and eventually it will be for artists that are AI entities. And we're gonna be building it to also work with AI curators, and what we believe in the future will be AI collectors. So that's the overarching big picture of the series. But to jump in on this one, Artist XAI4, a show of hands, is about this point in time. AI artwork has been accelerating rapidly over the last 1.5 to 2 years. Each month now feels like a year of progress. Each week is very, very exciting with what comes out. But for the period that we've been experiencing NFT art and AI artwork, there's been a signifier that what you're looking at is an AI-generated image. So as AI gets closer and closer to perfection, we're knocking on the door of photorealism. When AI artwork becomes photorealistic, it will be a completely new epoch in the art form. Right now, we're experiencing the limitations of the system, and the contemporary limitation of the system is hands. The way that AI artwork presents hands, it can't quite nail it. They come out with 6 fingers, they look mutated, bizarre, and it's become the signifier of the moment. So what we're doing is we're trying to capture that fly in the ointment. We're trying to capture that mosquito in the amber and present an exhibition that's built to be shown in museums and travel that captures this as a time capsule. So today we have Gordon with us. Gordon is in the exhibition, and he's an AI artist as well as a multifaceted, multidisciplinary artist. And would you like to talk about your project a little bit and how it's included in this?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the intro. Hi, everybody. My name is Gordon. I've been an artist my whole life. However, I was always kind of living this double life of being involved with blockchain since 2011, and kind of like parallel to that, trying to document our technological advancements through art, or use technology as a medium in some capacity, ranging from smart contracts to blockchain, and actually more and more actually incorporating AI and algorithms, because I think it's really a crucial point in the history of art and just humanity, where we see like a huge adoption of these text-to-image models in the artistic practice. So essentially I see currently like a big trifecta, like a triangle of 3 main pillars of the digital world. One being blockchain for ownership of digital assets. The second one being 3D, for 3D worlds, metaverses, augmented reality, because essentially it's all 3D. Like in the future, we're going to look at our computers as like, damn, it was so flat. Like
Square and rectangle,
yeah,
and how ridiculous it is that we maintain those shapes.
So that's the second pillar. And the third pillar, which is one of the very important and crucial parts in this like trifecta, is AI, for infinite streams of content. For infinite streams of generative content, you know, that's like sometimes that can be like user generated or generated by data, and very sometimes even customizable to an individual. So essentially, in the project that we're actually exhibiting together here, I scanned every single artwork that I've ever produced as an artist, which was since I was a baby pretty much till like a few weeks ago. And all of these artworks, there was like over 3,000 artworks. I scanned them, documented them, and then essentially trained 4 separate AI models on each period of my life. So one is like childhood art, one is abstract art, one is figurative, and one is graffiti art. So essentially I kind of like almost explored what does it mean to be maybe an unwilling target of AI training data sets, or what does it mean to maybe willingly surrender your data and your art as a creator to these models, and then what comes out of it.
Do you want to say what came out of it? All right.
So what came out of it was very, very surprising to me, because like I saw artworks that were created totally in my style, because this AI model learned through analyzing all of these artworks that were in the data set. It learned what my style was, like how I created brushstrokes, how I created compositions. It even managed to reproduce my signature. So on all of these like AI generated artworks, you have my signature, which is scary how
it's mutated though, right?
It's mutated slightly, but it's so similar that like
it's still your stroke.
Yeah, so I was very, very, very like kind of surprised, shocked, and inspired by this. So I kind of continued exploring this by thinking, how can I add extra layers of like the human element to these artworks? How can I infuse emotions or experiences that maybe a machine does not understand? So I identified what are the main kind of experiences in each aspect of my life, in each of these 4 periods, that really had an emotional impact and kind of like inspired me, or really changed me as an individual, or really kind of like were these shifts in my life. And those concepts I then used as prompts, which are essentially a prompt is a text that you input into an AI model, so it can create an artwork based on that text. So essentially I kind of assigned each concept to a single artwork, and then I explored the variations it can bring. So, and later I compiled all of those variations into a 3D artwork. So that's kind of how I try to merge that trifecta of blockchain, 3D, and AI.
And even something that's been trained on your work and has that level of care and consideration has the artifact of this era, which is mutated hands that look surreal. What was it like noticing like the flaw in the machine? Because you know, when it's your painting, your work, it's your vision. What was it like as an artist to kind of experience the breakdown in the medium?
Honestly, those imperfections I find as the most interesting aspect to them, you know. And there was a quote I read once that in a world of perfection, even imperfection has its own appeal. And you know, I think it really, as you said, kind of encapsulates the moment we're in, because we cannot create complete perfection with AI currently. As we can see, like in most of these images, like there's something off. Even if you cannot point it out,
I can point it out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now yes.
There you go.
Yeah. So here, this is like, yeah, very, very a good example of that. So currently, we are like on the precipice of perfection being achievable, and then it's going to be very interesting what happens afterwards.
Well, it changes it immediately. Like foundationally, it changes it because it makes it so if perfection is possible, imperfection is a choice. And if imperfection is a choice, it's a different statement. You know, it's as an art form, if the medium itself is hitting its limits and breaking, that's how we're going to remember this period in time. And that's how we're going to remember this aesthetic movement that these artists have gone through. So there's like, you know, you gave a quote, I'll do the quote that we love from Brian Eno. And it's like, you know, whatever your nostalgia point is, whatever the flaw in the medium is, if it's the record popping as it plays, if it's like the tape hiss, or if it's the singer's throat cracking, like while it screams, that's the limitation of the medium. And it's also how we as a people remember that period in time and, you know, date stamp our nostalgia points. So as we see the momentous rise in AI interest, AI artwork, the level of expression that's coming out and the wave of people that are like trying to get their head around it, it's the first wave of it is like over. You know, it's really like, if it's not over now, it's over in the next 6 months, without a doubt, inarguably. So the work that comes out of it now that has these artifacts, we feel like that's worth showing in a museum. Our plan is to bring it together into an exhibition that can travel and to be, using it as a bit of a snapshot of the community and the people that are participating in AI art now. And it's kind of cute, like we're doing that, we're asking them to kind of like, put their hand up and be counted. And it's fun to have that also be the artifact that's broken. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that aesthetic is going to be considered vintage.
I know. Well,
the
they're going to fake it, is what they're going to do, is like people are going to fake this aesthetic and lean into it. And there'll be pushback and all of that. But right now is the moment when it's authentic. Like these are the artists that were here at this point in time. These are the artists that were experimenting with the medium. And these are the pieces by those artists that we love that are, unsettling for certain. I guess what we're going to do now is open it up for questions. If anybody has, a thought or wants to hear anything else about the show, happy to do it.
Maybe while somebody thinks of a question, I wanted to add just
sure.
To that.
And then that guy's got a question up.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to add to this that like there's this concept of like the early days, and usually people, ask a lot of artists and creators, like, there's my friends from Dada and Colborn and
Dada's in the show.
MLO. Oh, Dada's in the show.
Dada's in the show. Absolutely.
Yeah, but they usually say, oh, like those were the early days, or like they ask, how was it in the early days, or like, oh, if I was early, I would do this, Sure. But the early days is a state of mind, and we are now in the early days. Like early days is all the time. It's just how we look into it. And now we are in this really early days of exploring these text-to-image models.
Yeah.
Also soon text to 3D models. And what we do with them, how we explore them will definitely impact its evolution and probably like art history in some way. So it's super
Absolutely.
exciting.
And popular culture and
Exactly.
the experimentations become the things that are copied.
Yeah.
And they become the norm. So it's really just people exposing each other to use cases and the way that you can experiment and catch something new and something fresh.
Totally.
Yeah. So Vandalo has a question. Well, let's hold on one second. It's okay. We've got 6 minutes on the clock. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. So there was one thing that was said earlier that was absolutely interesting. You ventured the idea of not only...
can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, so you ventured the idea earlier that was very interesting, not only of artists using AI, but then the natural evolution that we are already seeing with Dada of AI artists.
Absolutely.
Then you ventured into the idea of AI curators and collectors. I know that Mocha has developed an AI critic almost. I'm not sure if it's evolved to a collector yet, but to me this still feels as giving the AI a sentiment of individuality.
Of what?
Individuality.
Individuality.
Yeah.
Of
Well, on
course.
the other end, a really strong potential that I see that I'm curious to see how Super Chief or other people interested in AI could explore is the idea of multiple people or an entire community being represented by an AI. So when you think about collecting,
like Bado and all that.
Yeah, I feel like there's the Moonbirds. They have like the collectives of collectors, right? So, for example, AI becoming a collector, I can see some communities like that elevating. Yeah. So, what's your opinion on shifting the view of AI from individuality to collective?
I think every use case is going to happen. I think AI as tooling is going to spill into every aspect of everything we do. So I'm certain that DAO structures will get to experiment with AI influence. Like Bado and a couple of others that like are working with a AI artist to kind of influence and create and have that go. I'm really interested in when it becomes a mirror to the interactions that we already have, and we become exposed to another layer of, all right, so like, of course I'm terrified of hypercapitalism, all right? And of course, like that's a fucking nightmare, and we're already at the end of like late stage capitalism. So we're entering this machine aided capitalism that's coming. So that's scary. I think AI collectors and AI being tools for people that want to, I think I get excited when AI gets set loose and gets to kind of like, I like it when humans doubt themselves and just hand it to a machine sometimes, and then you get to see a machine be creative in its own way. You know, drive it into a ditch or not, it's still really exciting to see something that's not human have ideas and make theories and propose a strategy. So I think a lot of people are leaning into ChatGPT as like how to start their business or run their world. I think a lot of people are gonna start letting AI operate as a collector tool, and they'll set like 4 or 5 different AI collectors loose into the market, and then they'll start to collect. And I think that they'll watch them and they'll watch their AI collect and trade. And I hope it's not a bunch of people botting it to the bottom. I hope it's a bunch of people who earnestly want the system to survive, but have different tools to push forward into that system and push their agenda. So I think it's interesting for sure.
A follow-up to that, would you, on the theme of this collection being original and candid to this moment and not being an attempt to replicate this type of aesthetic, would you consider using the images that you have collected in this collection?
Louder, much louder, I'm sorry.
Would you consider using the images that you have collected in this data set as a data set to have an image generation model based on this collection?
This guy gets it. Yeah. So we're going to be adding to the exhibition over the course of the next year, trying to collect as many people from this point in time and artist friends and friends of friends that we're not aware of, but have work from this era. And then we're going to consider it a time capsule. And it's like, it's the kind of thing that can be, that's why I keep saying it's a mix of the fly in the ointment, which is like a saying in maybe the States, or maybe we stole it from England, about like, something that's broken. You know, it's like a crack in the mirror. It's a fly in the ointment is the term of something that is broken, but not what it's supposed to be and no longer functional, you know? So having that be captured as the mosquito and the amber is a bit of like the Jurassic Park joke. That's why I realized like I should say things like that and actually explain my metaphor real quick. So the idea is that this is a condensed presentation of the artwork and the artists of this time, and that it could create interesting data sets like you're talking about for future exploration of the aesthetic with a condensed, distilled, authentic source code. I might be using source code wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying here is a really important point, which means, like what it does, it highlights that the curation of the actual data set being like what images in this case you're using to train a model, because an AI model cannot know anything on itself, like it has to learn from something. So essentially, the learning material is called a data set. So essentially how you as a human, as an artist, as a curator, decide what you put in this training data set will drastically influence how the actual AI model learns or produces work. So to your point, that data set could be like, in my case with the new Infinity series that I launched, I only used my work as a data set.
Right.
All the works that I ever created as an artist. But that doesn't have to be the case. Like you can actually use different people's artwork and pull them together.
Of course.
But you can like specifically choose a style or, by the way, this is one of the pieces in the Infinity series.
Gordon's piece.
Yeah. So, and actually, it really learned from my brushstrokes. But basically what happens there is once you curate a data set from which the AI learns, this AI then becomes essentially like a whole universe, which is almost infinite. And in this universe, each point, it's like a 3-dimensional space, each point is a different image. So essentially those are like almost like metaphorically like coordinates in this universe, and then you can essentially try and explore it by generating different images, essentially just moving and exploring which point gives you what type of artwork. And then, we're out of time, but...
thank you all so much for coming. All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for the inspiring discussion. 네, 어느덧 마지막 순서입니다. 이렇게 멋진 행사를 기획한 세 팀의 이야기를 직접 들어보면서 내년에 크립토 아트 서울을 꿈꿔보는 그런 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 주최사 다플래너의 김지윤 대표님, 주관사 에트나 컴퍼니의 전혜인 디렉터님, 그리고 이온 스튜디오의 강지원 대표님입니다. 큰 박수로 따뜻하게 맞이해 주시길 부탁드리도록 하겠습니다.
Okay, hi, good evening. I hope all of you enjoy our events. Is that right? Thank you. We actually have like 2 more minutes to end this event, like conclude this event. So I just would like to introduce all our team on stage. Please come up to the stage, everyone.
Come on.
Yeah, and say goodbye and see you later. Yeah, time. Please come up to the stage, everyone. Okay. Yeah. Just let us introduce ourselves. Okay. So, hi. We are the planner. We are the international convention organizer, and we really pleasure to have this event here and have you all here and tonight. So, hope everyone have wonderful events with us, and hope you have pleasant night too. Okay, and Lucia?
Hello, me, Hwaji, Shiny Tiger. We are Eon Studio. We are Web3 creative studio in Korea. We are really honored to have all of you at our event, and we really wanted to mark our first event with the people who are at the core of crypto art movement. And we really thankful, and we have huge gratitude your participation. Thank you.
Hello, this is HyeIn from HyeIn Company. HyeIn Company is a creative platform for using art IP. So our team member is Rizin and Zoe. Yeah.
Yeah, so we really hope that this opportunity can be a cornerstone to build a healthy ecosystem and make new culture in Asia as well. And hope you have enjoyed our events, and see you next year too.
See you next year.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.